Welcome to Drunk Bible Study. This show's mission is to read every single word of the greatest story ever told. A warning to our listeners, the hosts of this show are sinners, but they're doing their best. There will be drinking and there may be some swears. They did say they'd try to keep it clean, but I wouldn't put my money on it.
I'm Emily, and this is Drunk Bible Study, where my good friends Dedeker and Jace teach me, a born and raised atheist, all about Paul. At least that's what it's felt like for the last, few weeks, months.
Yeah, we're going to get really close to Paul.
Yeah, I heard.
Many more weeks ahead.
Okay. I'm excited, actually, to learn more about his shenanigans, because last week, he was on one. He was getting down. Yeah.
But I feel like, to be honest, okay, I've not done a deep dive into our reading today. I've just kind of skimmed, and I think it's going to just get darker.
Yeah.
It's going to get darker. I think it's going to make last week look like, rainbows and giggles.
A real walk in the park.
Oh boy.
A real walk in the park.
Okay.
Now, I do remember from last week, my favorite part being that Chloe was the girly with the goss. Remember that?
Yes,
Right.
I forgot about her. Yeah, a named woman.
Yeah.
What a concept. A named woman. Wow. Yeah, good.
But as a gossip, that's the best we got. Yeah. But it is something.
Yeah.
It is a name. Wow. I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sore. Yesterday, Dedeker took me to...
This is Dedeker's fault.
...an aerial rope class. And I've done some aerial circ stuff before in the past, but I've been out of the game for probably a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hurt in between my ribs and on my side, my obliques hurt a lot. My legs and hamstrings hurt weirdly, all sorts of strange places. And also the skin on the top of my feet feels sort of burned off a little bit. It's just
that's a drag.
It's just a real time.
Yeah, that's a real time. My goodness. I'm sorry to hear all that.
It was fun, but...
Yeah, but that's if you're going to do aerial as a hobby, I've learned in my past 2 years of doing it, is just pain comes with the territory. That's the whole... You kind of have to enjoy it. You have to seek it out. That's the whole part of it. The bottom of my foot hurts today.
Really?
Yes.
That's so random.
Yes, I know. And yet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's extremely random.
Uh-huh.
Well, I almost feel like I should try this at some point.
You should, for sure.
Yeah,
it's,
totally.
A rite of passage somehow in Drunk Bible Study.
Well, you came and did a lyra class with us once.
That was
so
intense.
It'd be fun to follow it up with a rope class or something
I know.
else.
I feel like you need a tremendous amount of upper body strength for all of those things. And I can't even do a pull-up, so... Gotta get on that.
It'll help. You don't have to be able to do one to do it, but it does help.
But probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, sorry for turning it into drunk fitness study, but if we can bring it back to Paul. I recall last time, Jace, that you gave us a fun preview of how the subheadings are different between different translations.
Yeah, that Eugene has titled the first chapter we're going to read today as The Mystery of Sex.
Right.
Which sounds fun.
The mystery of sex. Oh, yeah.
While the NIV has titled it Dealing with a Case of Incest.
Oh, right, the incest.
Which is much less fun.
I feel like both things are going to happen this time around.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think it'll bring up some interesting questions about what counts as incest, actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I feel like already we've seen that the Bible, at least the Old Testament, has a looser, or rather what? What am I trying to say?
I don't know.
They think sex with closer relatives is okay than I think most of us would think is okay in our modern day society.
Sure.
However, it'll be interesting to see if maybe that's changed by Paul's time here based on how he reacts to it. I don't know. I'm curious to see.
Yeah.
There was a story that I wanted to tell last week, but we just had so much to talk about.
We really did.
And that was that we had the joy just a couple weeks ago now of a couple Mormon boys showing up to our door.
Oh, yeah. Gosh. Yeah.
In the evening while we were about to sit down for movie night.
It was a real Christmas miracle. It was wonderful.
It was wonderful.
It was Jace's dream come true. Just so people know.
I know you've wanted this forever.
He's wanted this for years. And whenever you see on the doorbell camera that Mormons came by and we weren't home, you're so disappointed.
Yeah, really.
My goodness. Yeah.
No, and so their tactic this time around, I guess this is a thing that they're trying, is that they're doing like a survey. So rather than just coming around and trying to tell you the good word or whatever, they had a little series of questions to ask. And the questions were random, and I think from a research point of view, not a very well put together study in terms of the questions sort of set up for bias in the answers. For example, one of the questions being, do you think that churches should offer better programs for children? And Dedeker and I
how do you
thought
even
about
answer
that for a while.
Yeah, how do you even answer that question?
Right?
Well, I immediately was like, wait, better? What do you mean? How do you define better based on what?
Better than what?
Yeah, better in what way?
And what does that mean? Yeah. Yeah.
And so we ended up being like, well, better is better, but my definition of better might be different than what you think better is. But I guess I'll say better is good because better is better, right?
I feel like, I feel like we're starting off on the wrong foot here, though. I want to make it clear that like these two boys were extremely sweet. They were very polite. Yep. They indulged. After we got through all their questions, they indulged our many questions, right?
Yeah, we also surveyed them.
I'm sure that's very
and like I don't mean gotcha questions. Like to be fair, they weren't super pushy and like trying to convert us right there on the spot. And so I think Jason and I also weren't very pushy, but it's like I got a lot of questions about their experience on mission and what they missed about where they were from and what they missed about being, about home, or like how they felt at the beginning of the mission versus now. Like, so it was actually a really wonderful conversation. I wanted to invite them in.
So they had a mission to Seattle, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, they were sent to Seattle.
Cute. That's adorable. Yeah. The big city.
And it was interesting talking to them about that part of it too, because it seemed like both of them were a bit disappointed that Seattle's what they got, right?
Understandably.
Why? It's beautiful.
Because I did ask them. I was like, where did you want to go? And one of them said Rome, and one of them said Germany. So,
and I get it, right? If you think you're going to get a trip abroad, or you're hoping you will, and it's just like Seattle, and one of the guys is like from just a few hours away or something. So he's like, well, that wasn't exciting,
Okay, well, sure. I mean, yeah.
It's, I think they wanted to go abroad, and I get that, or at least go to a different coast.
Okay, the most exciting thing, though, is they let us pitch them on Drunk Bible Study. Like
we talked about Drunk Bible Study for a while.
We told them quite a bit about Drunk Bible Study. And we did say that, like, we're coming up on the end of the Bible. We're not sure what to read next. Could be the Book of Mormon. I don't know. And at the very end of the conversation...
I'm sure they were like, oh, yes, you have to.
But at the very end of the conversation...
But no drinking, because that's not allowed.
Well, they were a little more iffy on, like, whether they think that's a good idea or not. They're like, you could tell they're kind of like, we don't know.
Yeah, fair.
But they did at the very, like, right when the conversation was winding down, one of them was like, so do you want a Book of Mormon?
Wait, so what? And then what do you say to that?
We said, hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, we got to see if it's got podcast potential. So now there's a Book of Mormon, which Jason's put in my nicely curated display of books that greet people as soon as they walk into our house. So it's really
awkward,
changed the impression that people get upon walking into the house.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's a conversation piece, really. A conversation starter.
Yeah.
But anyway, the boys were very sweet, and they definitely were not afraid to kind of entertain some of the sort of harder questions about theology and about like the inerrancy of the Bible. It seemed like they were not on the like, yes, it's 100% true. They seemed a little bit more wise to like, it's written by people over history that each had their own agendas, or at least they didn't push back on that idea. I do wish I could have talked to them more, but...
I know, I really wanted to invite them in because I'm like, I know, like it was late, it was 8:00, and I wanted to invite them in and give them like homemade...
Yeah. What if they were vampires?
Cheesecake. Oh, shit.
You would have invited them in.
Ooh.
That could have been bad.
I really didn't consider that.
Yeah, huh.
Yeah, that's what I thought of immediately.
Maybe that's been the whole thing the whole time.
Exactly.
No, it makes sense why Dracula had 3 brides. It's all coming together.
Okay.
All right. We should do this thing. We should talk about drinking.
Yes. What do you?
I made myself a Bloody Mary, and I put a little boozy okra in it.
Oh, that's what that is. I was like, is that a giant pickle?
No.
Is that a pickle?
It's a VeggieTale.
Oh yes. Who was the okra again?
I don't think there was an okra.
I thought
there was.
Was there?
Remember there was that sexy vegetable that we kept trying to figure out what it was, and we thought maybe it was an okra.
Sexy vegetable.
What, Esther, the sexy vegetable?
Esther, yeah, that's the one.
I think she was an asparagus.
Esther, the sexy vegetable.
But we've already got asparaguses. Are you sure she wasn't something else?
It's just some kind of sexy vegetable. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And what vegetable is sexier than okra?
I know, right? Just
what
look
I
at
always
it.
think.
I really couldn't say. There isn't one, clearly.
Oh, she's a green onion, according to the internet.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So she's long and
guess that's
slender.
pretty
Slender,
sexy.
traditional
Yeah, sure.
beauty standards for a green onion.
Okay.
Jace, you're having some sort of beer, it looks like.
Some sort of beer. Yes. I'm having some Bodhisattva, classic West Coast IPA. I just kind of on a whim thought that would be nice. I haven't had one in a while. And I'm, of course, drinking
Lovely.
it from the glasses that Kurt in our live audience made for me a few years ago. Thank you for that.
That's you on the toilet?
Well, it's an icon of a person on a toilet that it just says
I think it's you.
never sneeze on a toilet. What is it? Zechariah 13:6.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
As
I love
people
that.
will recall, that was how Jace gave himself a bloody nose by sneezing while
Yeah.
on a toilet.
Nope.
No?
It was not a bloody nose.
What was it?
It was that I sneezed, and when my head went forward, I hit my forehead on the doorknob and split open my forehead and was bleeding.
Okay, so you
on my
still
face.
drew
How
blood upon yourself.
freaking-
Oh, there was blood, yes, but not
How
from my
small?
nose.
How freaking small was this bathroom that you were that close to the doorknob?
Yeah, it was that the door had swung
Oh, right, because
in. This was like in the middle of the night, right?
Yes, and it was a
dark,
bathroom
and
at your parents' house where like the door wouldn't latch properly, and so often it would
Right.
open itself, which is not a good feature for a bathroom door.
No.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But I mean,
unfortunate.
it was only me on the floor, so I'm like, whatever, it can be open. But then I sneezed and hit my head on it because I didn't realize how close.
Jace last week also sneezed and then threw his back out, so it's
Yeah. I know.
Lord,
This
you
was-
guys. How does this happen? I've never thrown my back out. I'm basically the same age as all
I
of you.
sneeze very intensely.
Good Lord. Yeah.
I sneeze very intensely. This is not the first time that I have hurt myself sneezing. Obviously, these
it
are
was
not
so
the
funny
only two.
because when he told me, I automatically assumed he was on a toilet at the same time.
You're like, well, that tracks.
Like because of this track record.
Yeah,
I
later she
assumed-
was like, "Oh, that's weird that you hurt yourself on the toilet again." I was like, "What are you talking about? This had nothing to
You're
do
like,
with
I wasn't on the toilet. I just was sneezing. God.
Yeah,
Wow.
What are you drinking, Emily?
Yeah, I bought some blood oranges because that sounded fun. And it's a really like beautiful color when you juice a blood
Ooh.
orange.
Wonderful.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
It's
there
like
is.
almost pinkish red. Kind
Yeah,
of.
and see, like you can see the actual blood orange in there.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so this is a blood orange mezcalita with mezcal, Cointreau. I had honey. I didn't have agave, so it's a little bit of honey, and then lime juice. And it's great.
Nice.
It's lovely with tahini on the rim.
Wonderful.
Classic. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
We have a lot to get through today, so let's do
yes.
We do.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Mm.
Yeah, today we're reading a bunch. We're reading 5 chapters of Paul. We're reading 1 Corinthians chapters 5 through 9. As we
Ooh.
get started, we want to remind everyone to read responsibly and drink responsibly.
You can drink along with us, or you can listen to us while you're in the car.
But please do not do both at the same time.
And with that, it's 1 Corinthians chapter 5. It is actually reported that there is sexual immorality among you. Frickin' Chloe, man.
Who-
Chloe is the
who
biggest
frickin-
goss ever.
Yeah,
Chloe
I
also
was
said
like,
this
who
for
said
sure.
this? Yeah, who told everyone? My
Chloe
goodness.
cannot keep her GD mouth shut.
Yeah, exactly.
seriously.
Good Lord. Good Lord.
And such sexual immorality as is not even named among the Gentiles, that one has his father's wife.
Mm.
You are puffed up and didn't rather mourn that he who had done this deed might be removed from among you.
Oh,
Oh, so this is about a specific call out.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
it a specific call out that somebody slept with their dad's wife? They slept with their stepmom?
to one dude.
Yeah.
Is the stepmom porn this week?
Yes, I think that's what he's getting
Good.
into.
Good.
Maybe someone drew images of it on papyrus or something. and
That's not really
going around.
incest. I mean, it is insofar as
That's what I was saying. It depends how you're going to define
Chase was a little too
Yeah.
excited when that, right?
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 No, but like
Right?
incest means that you are literally related to this person, not
sure.
you fall in love with your
Right.
stepmom because she's hot and young.
Right?
Also problematic, but it's not incest.
Were you looking
I think.
something up, Jace, or should I keep going?
I was going to read you a few different translations version of that first verse there. So, of course, for Eugene,
Of course.
I also received a report of scandalous sex within your church family, a kind that wouldn't be tolerated even outside of the church. One of your men is sleeping with his stepmother. So it is just like the one. But then I also wanted to read Tyndale, of course, which is, there goeth common saying that there is fornication among you, and such a fornication as is not once named among the Gentiles, that one should have his father's wife.
Sometimes I think Tyndale is Mexican or something, like Spanish.
Oh, you don't think Italian? Fornicación.
Fornicación. Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right. Fine.
For I most assuredly, as being absent in body but present in spirit, have already, as though I were present, judged him who has done this thing.
Of course. Why does it matter if Paul judges him,
Long
though?
distance judging.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul started this church, so he's kind of
Okay.
everyone's daddy.
He's kind of the daddy,
Yeah.
the church daddy.
But nothing's going to happen to him insofar as, like, lightning isn't going to strike and knock him down, I'm assuming.
We'll see.
What?
In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, you being gathered together, and my spirit, with the power of our Lord Jesus Christ, you are to deliver such a one to Satan for the destruction of the flesh, that the spirit may be saved in the day of the Lord Jesus.
Huh.
Okay.
For the destruction of the flesh. This sounds like corporal punishment or maybe just execution.
Just murder. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It's interesting, too. I'm just reading how Eugene seems to really have softened this quite a bit.
Yes.
Really?
Eugene's really rolled this back a bit from how intense.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's like,
I'm surprised.
I'm telling you that this is wrong. You must not simply look the other way and hope it goes away on its own. Bring it out into the open and deal with it in the authority of Jesus, our master.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a little interpretive, isn't it?
Yeah, hold this man's conduct up to public scrutiny. Let him defend it if he can. If he can't, then out with him. It will be devastating to him, of course, and embarrassing to you. But better devastation and embarrassment than damnation. He's like really changed.
He's really going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Your boasting is not good. Don't you know that a little yeast leavens the whole lump?
Of bread?
Purge.
Gross. So many levels of gross.
Purge out the old yeast that you may be a new lump.
Wow.
My lovely lady lumps is what he's talking about.
That's definitely what he's talking about.
There's so much in Christian culture that's about like, create in me a clean heart, make me a new lump.
Yeah.
Even as you are unleavened. Okay. For indeed, Christ, our Passover, has been sacrificed in our place. Therefore, let us keep the feast, not with old yeast, neither with the yeast of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth.
Yeah, so Eugene, with this whole leavened thing, he's trying to really sell the whole metaphor, right? Of this yeast is bad, so use
God hates
good yeast.
We do know
or
that.
Or don't, just don't use yeast at all, maybe is better. And he just says, so get rid of this yeast. And he puts yeast in quotes. Our true identity is flat and plain, not puffed up with the wrong kind of ingredient.
Like, imagine the most disgusting type of bread imagine the opposite of all good qualities of bread. That's what we want to be.
That's flat and plain.
Lumpy.
Yeah.
Wow.
A flat, plain lump. I wrote to you in my letter to have no company with sexual sinners.
Oh.
Yet not at all meaning with the sexual sinners of this world, or with the covetous and extortioners, or with idolaters, for then you would have to leave the world. But as it is, I wrote to you not to associate with anyone who is called a brother who is a sexual sinner, or covetous, or an idolater, or a slanderer, or a drunkard, or an extortioner. Don't even eat with such a person, the same way that Jesus never ate with anyone who was a prostitute or
exactly.
a tax
I'm like, come on.
I think you've gone off script here, Dedeker.
I'm sorry. I got a little too...
You've undermined Paul's message here.
Too frothed up.
But exactly. Like, why does he care? Because Jesus certainly didn't.
Keep in mind, Paul never knew Jesus, personally.
This is go-between stuff or, many degrees of separation. This is how, I guess, wrong stories are told. And people start believing that Jesus is like this perfect man who never talks to women who sleep around or men or anyone. And yet.
Eugene's got a good line here. He's saying,
I'm sure.
But I am saying that you shouldn't act as if everything is just fine. When a friend who claims to be a Christian is promiscuous or crooked, is flip with God, or rude to friends.
Flips with God? No. Actually, the puzzle pieces are fitting here because Paul is creating a very important distinction of like Jesus hung out with sinners because he was bringing them into the fold. If people are already in the fold, then judge away because they should know better.
I see. Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's the idea of like, we'll hang out with the sexual sinners because they just need God's love or whatever. They need to be brought into the church. But once you're in the church, then
stay away.
Straight and narrow.
Interesting.
Straighten up and fly right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or the kind of like you can be around them, but don't be friends with them. Don't relax around them. You're only there to preach.
Yes.
Which is interesting too, that I think there is a lot of this retconning, this idea that Jesus was there changing the ways of these people. But I don't actually remember a lot of that. I mean, besides the ones that became disciples. But
I think he was pretty chill with everyone.
He didn't really have a lot of emphasis on like, you have to stop this thing you're doing. The only people he said that to was people who had money and possessions.
Yeah.
Those are the ones. He's like, get rid of those.
Well, no, the woman who committed adultery, who was going to be stoned,
well, sure. He said,
told her, go and sin no more.
Adultery no more. Yeah, but he didn't stone her.
Maybe that's just go and don't be caught no more.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
But I mean, Paul's kind of arguing the opposite. He's like, no, you kill this guy. You should.
Yeah.
You should
Seriously. Yeah. It's really rough.
For what have I to do with also judging those who are outside? Don't you judge those who are within? But those who are outside, God judges. Quote, put away the wicked man from among yourselves. So yeah, he's straight up like, kick that dude out.
Dang.
Yep.
Or just kill him?
Who knows?
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically like most online communities
it's
now.
True.
So
it's just like, no.
Got it. He was the original
canceler.
incel, maybe? Yeah.
Original canceler.
Well, not just incel, just any person in an online community who's like, one person does something wrong, they're gone forever.
Yeah.
They're dead to us.
Yeah.
Okay, your turn, Jace.
Oh, gosh. Okay, wow. That went so fast.
It did.
Okay, 1 Corinthians chapter 6. Dare any of you, having a matter against his neighbor, go to law before the unrighteous and not before the saints? Don't you know that the saints will judge the world? And if the world is judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? And if the world is judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Don't you know that we will judge angels? Paul, where are you getting this nonsense?
Paul. No. What is it? What are you talking about?
Paul is just making all sorts of new stuff up. How much more things that pertain to this life? If then you have to judge things pertaining to this life, do you set them to judge who are of no account in the assembly? I say this to move you to shame.
Oh, thank you for clarifying.
Stage direction here. Like, you should feel ashamed now. Isn't there even one wise man among you who would be able to decide between his brothers? But brother goes to law with brother, and that before unbelievers. Is this the whole thing of like, we can't trust the law because the law is not based solely in Christianity, and so therefore it's wrong? Is that kind of where we get
I don't know. That's
that
interesting.
Kind of
interesting.
Thinking that can sometimes come up amongst communities who do perhaps unlawful things. Therefore, it is already altogether a defect in you that you have lawsuits with one another. Why not rather be wronged? Why not rather be defrauded? No, but you yourselves do wrong and defraud, and that against your brothers. Or don't you know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Don't be deceived. Neither sexually immoral, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor male prostitutes, nor homosexuals.
Oh, good.
Oh.
We're getting into it. Nor
Yeah.
thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor slanderers, nor extortioners will inherit the kingdom of
Well,
God.
that was all of us.
That's a lot
I was like,
I know. I was like,
Well,
he
this is a lot
practically
of
calls out
propaganda
people by
here.
username.
Whoops. Awkward.
Gulp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to pause for just a moment because this is where I think we're getting to the stuff that when Dedeker and I have had our reactions about Paul in the past.
It's here.
It's all this stuff that Paul does where he kind of comes out of nowhere saying, these are facts. When we're
Yeah.
like, where did you get this from, Paul?
Yeah.
This
But
is
isn't
not...
that a lot of people who are Christian who say things as facts and then, expect it just to be the case?
I think they get it all from Paul for the most part.
Yeah. And no, for sure. He was the original guy.
I mean, like when we've complained in the past about some things where we're like, Jesus said this or did this, but now people seem to think it was very different. I think
It's from Paul.
my impression is that most of that started with Paul.
Yeah.
Like that the huge leap happened with Paul and there've maybe been some small leaps since then.
Interesting.
But it's like, I don't know, that's my impression at least. Does that track with yours, Dedeker? That it's like we jump so far so quickly that then over the continuing several hundred years, it moved less fast.
Yes.
Yes.
Right? It took us over 1,000 years to get to now.
Well, I think the things that I've really taken home is that people don't read. They especially don't read the Bible.
No,
Sure.
they don't.
And
Yeah.
people
They certainly don't.
love vibes in the sense of they love making decisions about things based on the vibes they give rather than on the facts. Maybe this is me being a little bit too much cantankerous old people, kids these days. I don't know, but
Sure.
You just use the word vibe, so
that's
I
true.
think it's
Well, it's okay. Vibe's
Gonna
going
be
to follow us till our 80s, and then it's definitely going to be an old person thing. So,
Yeah. So this is an interesting one too, looking at different translations of this. The King James Bible takes a slightly different take to this list of people who will not inherit the kingdom of God.
Okay.
They will neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of God.
nor effeminate.
Yeah.
Whatever
nor
that means.
effeminate, right?
Gosh.
Now, okay, the complete Jewish Bible, a different take altogether. This is people who engage in sex before marriage, who worship idols, who engage in sex after marriage with someone other than their spouse, who engage in active or passive homosexuality.
Wait, what?
Like top or bottom.
I guess
Okay.
so.
I was
He's inclusive.
got it. What about
Who steal-
verse people? Yeah.
Who are greedy, who get drunk, who assail people with contemptuous language, and who rob. And now, where do you think Eugene's going to come down on this?
I think Eugene's really
Is he
going to
gonna,
hang
like-
heavily on the gay stuff. What do you think,
Okay.
Emily?
I just feel like he's going to sugarcoat and like tame it a lot
You think so?
that, your 15-year-old cousin could read it and not be scandalized. But we'll see. Maybe not.
He hasn't shied away from sex and religion shrines in the past.
I suppose you're right. Yeah,
But
maybe you're right.
here's his list of those who will not be joining in God's kingdom. Those who use and abuse each other,
Okay.
use and abuse sex, use and abuse the earth, and everything in it, don't qualify as citizens in God's kingdom.
Whoa, that's the whole
So
list.
That was a short list.
So he really boiled it down to its essence and took out the specific gay bashing stuff.
Okay.
I mean, good. Good for
Yeah.
you, Eugene. I actually...
Maybe some points in
I
Eugene's
appreciate your
favor. I
list.
forget how he dealt with the previous clobber verses, so I don't know if those points are really merited,
Right.
but
Yeah. I don't think we've even gotten to all the real clobber verses yet. So
Oh, boy.
we'll see.
Okay.
There
Okay.
are going to be a lot of them in Corinthians, actually. So
Great.
we're going to get to more. But
Great.
this is just one of those ones, quick side note to point out that this is when I went to one of the first actual kind of historical Bible analysis talks that I ever went to in college, was talking about the translation of using the word homosexuality in translations in the Bible, and that word, that concept even, didn't exist until only a few hundred years ago. So
this is a very new translation, is what you're saying, potentially.
Well, I mean, all of these are from just in the past few hundred years, right?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
None of these are that old, really. But just that, basically his argument, this former Catholic priest who was giving this talk, his argument was, like, regardless of how you want to interpret these verses, to use the word homosexuality is just a factual error to use because it's like a whole concept that just didn't even exist at the time. So that was kind of the argument that he was making. It is interesting that when we look at the King James Bible, how it says, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, which I think they're saying men who have sex with men is what they're saying there.
Abusers
and like
of
the
themselves.
NIV says men who have sex with men. So it's like it seems like some translations have maybe gone back and tried to correct this error and said, actually, no, that's not the right word to use. But still, doesn't make Paul any better in this particular way. Okay, verse 11. Such were some of you, but you were washed.
Like baptized?
Oh, I see. We did a conversion. We conversioned them. But you were sanctified. But you were justified in the name of the Lord Jesus and in the Spirit of our God. Quote, all things are lawful for me, end quote, but not all things are expedient. Quote, all things are lawful for me, end quote, but I will not be brought under the power of anything.
Huh?
I don't know who he's saying all things are lawful for.
Wonder who he's quoting here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Foods for the belly and the belly for foods. That's another quote. Quote, foods for the belly and the belly for foods, end quote.
Who is saying these things? Who has said these things to him?
We should look this up. But God will bring to nothing both it and them. But the body is not for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body.
Well, what's the Lord going to do to your body?
Well, Now God raised up the Lord and will also raise us up by his power. Don't you know that your bodies are members of Christ?
Here we go with the members again.
Shall I then take the members of Christ and make them members of a prostitute? May it never be. Or don't you know that he who is joined to a prostitute is one body? For, quote, the two, says he, quote, will become one flesh, end quote. But he who is joined to the Lord is one spirit. So he's justifying how we can sex Jesus.
What? Wait.
Because then we're one spirit instead of a human living person.
But isn't that a thing that people say, right? Is this the quote? It's talking about prostitutes and then it's talking about how when you have sex, like you become one with the other person.
Well, but he's quoting a much older Bible verse about two becoming one flesh.
Did that happen already?
Yes, that happened already.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just now using that quote to say that when you have sex with a prostitute, you also become a prostitute by the transitive property of prostitution.
You're caught in their tractor beam and then there's no choice.
Yeah, right.
That's fine, whatever.
Verse 18, flee sexual immorality. Quote, every sin that a man does is outside the body, end quote. But he who commits sexual immorality sins against his own body. Or don't you know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, which is in you, which you have from God?
Is that the first time that line happened?
I think in our last reading we got the body as a temple.
Oh, we did? God,
Yeah.
I missed that. Okay. Okay.
You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. Therefore, glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's.
Great.
I'm sorry, but like having a body that is not my own, but somebody else's, it's just like, I don't like that either.
Yeah.
That even if it is God, even if it is some omnipotent being, I am very embodied and I like my body and it doesn't belong to anyone else, even God.
Yeah.
Personally.
But he bought
That's
it.
what I believe.
He purchased it. And in a
Wait a minute, he purchased
society,
it?
That's what he just said here.
For a fair price, okay?
You are not your
bought
own.
and sold.
Well, he just said you were bought with a price. He didn't say it was fair.
Oh, I
He just
see.
said-
You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. What price?
Yeah.
What price have you made upon my body? What price is there?
I'm assuming he means Jesus.
The blood price.
Oh.
The blood price.
Yes.
Mm. Yeah.
Let's take a break.
Okay. Yes, I need to fill my drink.
Me too.
I've been told I won't like the next chapter, and I'm the one reading the next chapter. So great.
Yes. I don't think anyone's going to like the next chapter, but who knows? Open minds, open hearts. Open legs.
Interestingly, open, like both an open mind, but also a mind that doesn't have to take everything you read at face value.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Or to take everything you read as truth. This was a lesson that I learned in high school. It took me a while. But reading fiction, it took me a long time to realize that just because something's written in fiction doesn't necessarily mean that that's how the world works.
That it's real?
Not that the things actually happened, but like their assumptions about how people work and how people think. And for me, that was like my big turning point in not liking Ayn Rand anymore.
And then you were a man, my son.
And then I became a man.
Good job.
I put away childish things and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay, all right. We're going to take a break here. Go tell your friends. Go, you know what? Rush, go. If you're at the live show, go rush and get them right now and be like, you gotta be here for this next one. This is a key pivotal moment in Paul's letters or something. And Emily's going to read it. It's going to be great.
Oh boy.
If you're listening to this at home, do the same thing, pause, just do a little pause. Go run around the block, grab all your friends who I guess live within a block of you and listen to the rest of this with them. Introduce them to the show. I hope that you have a great time. And then, of course, if you would like to go the extra mile and support this show, we don't have any advertising on this show at all. And the best way you can support us is just by contributing on Patreon, by becoming one of our Patreon parishioners. If you go to patreon.com/drunkbiblestudy, you'll get personal toasts on the show, Emily's drink recipes when she remembers to post those, which she has some to catch up on, which is good, and early access to episodes that come out. The recorded versions come out a couple days early for patrons so that you can know all the gossip before your friends. And of course, you will get our undying affection and will become one spirit with us.
Okay. We're doing this. Oh boy, here we go. I'm a little nervous. Chapter 7, of course. It's 7. Here we go. Now, concerning the things about which you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman, but because of sexual immoralities, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband.
Okay, let's just unpack that right out the gate, shall we?
I mean, are we having a rough time yet?
It's just that the question we've started with here is supposedly they have asked him.
It's good for a man not to touch a woman.
Like, it's good to just not have sex with women in general.
Well, but
that's the question that was asked of him.
This feels to me, okay, I did a contract once, my first contract in Shanghai, with a guy who was very, very religious and had just was in like the midst of a divorce. And during that time, he told me that when he was married, he wouldn't go into like an elevator alone with a woman that wasn't his wife.
Sure.
But now that he was divorced, he was like, whatever, sure, I'll do it.
Well, you know what happens when you go into an elevator alone with a woman who's not your wife?
I mean, that's
she leaps on you like a spider and rubs her breasts in your face and all of her limbs wrap around you like a face hugger. So it's wise.
That's what I'm saying, though, is this idea, this notion that one of the two of you can't control their impulses enough to be in proximity with one another alone.
Sure.
It's just completely ridiculous, personally.
Yeah.
I think.
No,
Am I wrong?
I agree.
Are we wrong? I don't know.
Are you wrong?
Yeah. And so that's what this reminded me of. It is good for a man not to touch a woman, but if you have a wife, then you can get all your touching out on her.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So now that we've set the scene, right? If they've asked him, is it bad for a man to have sexual relations with a woman, period? And now he's kind of, feels like he started off by hedging a little bit, where he's kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, yes, it's bad, but you should get married.
But like having a wife is better than, like doing it with dudes.
Well, sure. Everyone agrees on that, I guess.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. All right. Let the husband render to his wife the affection owed her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. The wife doesn't have authority over her own body, but the husband.
Yeah. Sorry, say that again.
Yeah,
Emily.
let's get a clean read on that one to make sure everyone understands.
Yeah.
The wife doesn't have authority over her own body. I can't even fucking say it.
I love that. I love it.
The wife doesn't have authority over her own body, but the husband. Oh, likewise, the husband doesn't have authority over his own body, but the wife.
Oh, unexpected.
Yeah, a little unexpected.
Sort of a double power play situation.
But it's just that some people have less authority over their own bodies than others.
I guess.
Like some are more equal than others is the point that I'm making.
Right.
Yeah. Don't deprive one another unless it is by consent for a season, that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and may be together again, that Satan doesn't tempt you because of your lack of self-control.
Okay. Sorry.
Do you like my reading?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I do. I was just looking at the Tyndale version of this here. But first, I just wanted to take a moment where Paul randomly throws out this weird, yeah, you can have sex to the amount that is due to the person who owns your body, being, of course, your wife or your husband. But if you, for a season, you want to not do that,
that's really interesting.
That's cool to just fast and pray. But then you should come back again together after, because we know you couldn't withstand temptation much longer. So I guess do that. But then the Tyndale version here says, "Withdraw ye not yourselves from one another, except it be with consent for a time, for to give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and afterwardy come again to the same thingy, lest Satan tempt you for your incontinence."
You're incontinent. Uh-oh.
Incontinence?
Uh-oh.
A little different meaning of the word there, I guess.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. 6. But this I say by way of concession, not of commandment. Yet I wish that all men were like me.
Like gay?
However,
Our potential read on it.
Woof. However, each man has his own gift from God, one of this kind and another of that kind. But I say to the unmarried and to widows, it is good for them if they remain even as I am. But if they don't have self-control, let them marry. For it's better to marry than to burn. Is he talking about the fact that he's celibate?
That's usually the read, is that he's celibate, yes.
Okay.
Now, if you read Eugene's translation, it's right front and center. He says, "Sometimes I wish everyone were single like me, a simpler life in many ways. But celibacy is not for everyone, any more than marriage is. God gives the gift of the single life to some, the gift of the married life to others."
Okay. I love that it's like God giving out gifts left and right. Like, here you go.
You get a marriage, and you get a marriage, and you get a
single life.
Singleness.
You don't, whatever. Okay, God. But to the married I command, not I, but the Lord, that the wife not leave her husband. But if she departs, let her remain unmarried, or else be reconciled to her husband, and that the husband not leave his wife.
Wait, he doesn't have the whole clause on there that if he does leave his wife, he better not go get married again.
No, of course not.
Yeah,
I guess, but he's at least does seem to be more even.
Well, sure. There's
neither of them should divorce each other.
Sure.
Well, okay. Again, this is interesting because that person that I was referencing before was really talking about the fact also that he was upset that his wife, even though they had a bad marriage, was deciding to divorce because in the Bible it says not to. And it's right here.
It's right here.
It is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Verse 13 is actually a really interesting one here.
Okay. Here we go. But to the married I command, not I, but the Lord, that the wife not leave her husband. But if she departs, let her remain unmarried, or else be reconciled to her husband, and that the husband not leave his wife. But to the rest, I, not the Lord, say, if any brother has an unbelieving wife, and she is content to live with him, let him not leave her. The woman who has an unbelieving husband, and he is content to live with her. Let her not leave her husband.
So this part, I think, is really interesting, right? So on the one hand, just the previous chapter, we were saying, or 2 chapters ago, we're saying if you have a man who's not following the rules, kill him, kick him out. But if you are married to someone who's not a believer, still don't divorce them.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So like, do not do it. Whatever you do, don't do it.
Yeah. But to me, I honestly find it surprising with his party line so far that he is like, I would have thought that'd been his one exception. He's like, but if you're married to an unbeliever, that's the devil is in them. That's the one reason why you should leave. And also you should probably kill them too. But like,
kill them on your way out.
On your way out. Yeah. Yeah.
Good God.
But it's just, you must not divorce.
Okay, well, here's the deal. Just sorry to give spoilers or like a little preview that he's going to contradict this advice in 2 Corinthians about staying married to unbelievers.
Oh, I'm excited. Yes. I'm so excited.
Are we going to call him out and just be like, WTF?
We're going to write our letter, our open letter to Paul.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Okay. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified in the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified in the husband. Otherwise, your children would be unclean, but now they are holy. Yet...
Okay, that's cool. That's actually a nice deal. So maybe this is a good argument for marrying a Christian if you're not. Because according to Paul,
your kids will be fine.
You get sanctified through them, and you don't have to do anything yourself. They do all the work of following rules and getting in good with God. You just get in free with that marriage certificate.
Cool.
And your kids too.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yet if the unbeliever departs, let there be separation. The brother or the sister is not under bondage in such cases, but God has called us in peace. For how do you know, wife, whether you will save your husband? Or how do you know, husband, whether you will save your wife? Only as the Lord has distributed to each man, as God has called each, so let him walk. So I command in all the assemblies. Was anyone called having been circumcised? We got to talk about circumcision, of course.
Got to bring it back.
Let him not become uncircumcised. Let him not become uncircumcised?
But you didn't know that could happen.
You just do a little...
Grows back overnight.
Stitch it back on?
Stitch it back together.
The tooth fairy brings it back.
While the wound is fresh enough, you could just sew it back on.
As long as you kept it on ice.
Has anyone been called in uncircumcision? Let him not be circumcised. Circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing, but the keeping of the commandments of God.
We're just reiterating his line from before of like, if you're circumcised already, don't uncircumcise. But if you're not circumcised, you don't need to circumcise anymore, guys. Just chill.
Okay. Let each man stay in that calling in which he was called. Were you called being a bondservant? Don't let that bother you. But if you get an opportunity to become free, use it. For he who was called in the Lord being a bondservant is the Lord's free man. Likewise, he who was called being free is Christ's bondservant.
Now, let me read you the NIV version of this. Verse 21. Were you a slave when you were called? Don't let it trouble you. Although, if you can gain your freedom, do so. For the one who was called a slave, when called to faith in the Lord, is the Lord's freed person. Similarly, the one who is free, when called, is Christ's slave.
What?
Yeah, he's really... Is this the part of the letter where he's getting drunk again?
And he might be.
Ranting now?
Might be.
No, the mushrooms are like on the upward trajectory right now.
Right,
okay.
Yeah.
You were bought with a price. Don't become bondservants of men.
Again.
Brothers, let each man, in whatever condition he was called, stay in that condition with God. Now, concerning virgins, I have...
Good.
Okay.
Good. Okay, sorry, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I have no commandment from the Lord, but I give my judgment as one who has obtained mercy from the Lord to be trustworthy. I think
wait,
that it is.
Hold on.
Wow, okay.
Wait.
Isn't that everything you've said, Paul, is not actually from the Lord and just from your own brain?
Yeah, definitely. But he thinks
Does it mean where he's like, he's not a virgin, but God has restored his spiritual hymen and therefore he can speak on this? topic.
I thought he was just saying like
spiritual hymen. Oh God,
Emily, I'll bet you if I Google the phrase spiritual hymen, I'm not the first person to come up with that phrase.
No, definitely.
Yeah, find it.
Oh boy.
Okay, that's interesting. I just read it as him saying, the Lord didn't weigh in on this, so I'll just have to give you my thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's what I thought too. But it's okay. Dedeker can believe what she wants. I think that it is good, therefore, because of the distress that is on us, that it is good for a man to be as he is.
The essence of a man, you know?
What does that mean? Are you bound to a wife? Don't seek to be freed. Are you free from a wife? Don't seek a wife.
I see. Interesting. So
I think he's just talking. He's just talking. He doesn't know about what, but he's talking. Yeah.
Yeah, so weird. The current pressures. So the NIV says, because of the current crisis, and then he goes on to say that of like, if you're married, you should stay married, and if you're not married, you should stay not married. Eugene just says, because of the current pressures on us from all sides. What does Tyndale say?
Maybe they mean the relationship escalator pressures. The current cultural zeitgeist that tells us that we have to be married, that we are less than if we are not, you know? And that single people are somehow wrong. And yet...
I mean, Paul is a crusader for that.
Yeah, he's all about the single ladies.
I know. I mean, that's the one good thing about him. Okay.
Yeah, if you like it, then it's too late to put a ring on it, 'cause I'm just going to stay single. I think that's his song. Sorry, I just noticed the Tyndale Bible here says, as concerning virgins, I have no commandment of the Lord, yet give I counsel, as one that hath obtained mercy of the Lordy to be faithful. I suppose that it is good for the present necessity, for it is good for a ma so to be. Art thou bounda unto a wife? Seek not to be loused. Art thou loused from a wife? Seek not a wife.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Can I keep going?
Yes, please. Yes. Please do.
But if you marry, you have not sinned. If a virgin marries, she has not sinned, yet will have oppression in the flesh, and I want to spare you. Yet such will have oppression in the flesh, and I want to spare you. But I say this, brothers, the time is short, that from now on, both those who have wives may be as though they had none, and those who weep as though they didn't weep, and those who rejoice as though they didn't rejoice, and those who buy as though they didn't possess, and those who use the world as not using it to the fullest. For the mode of this world passes away. Okay, he is something again.
Full peak, yeah.
But I desire to have you to be free from cares. He who is unmarried is concerned for the things of the Lord, how he may please the Lord. But he who is married is concerned about the things of the world, how he may please his wife.
Yeah.
Ugh.
God.
Right?
Yeah. There is also a difference between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman cares about things of the Lord, that she may be holy both in body and in spirit, but she who is married cares about the things of the world, how she may please her husband. This I say for your own profit, not that I may ensnare you, but for that which is appropriate, and that you may attend to the Lord without distraction. But if any man thinks that he is behaving inappropriately toward his virgin, if she is past the flower of her age, and if need so requires, let him do what he desires. He doesn't sin. Let them marry.
What is this scenario that he's describing?
I'm on 36.
Also,
I don't know.
What, past the flower of her age? Like, what does Eugene say?
What he means, I don't know what he means. I don't know what he means. I was like, does this mean like that she's like period? Like what the what? Because that's because that's disgusting. That's horrifying, actually. That's like
no, but he's saying if she's past the flower of her age.
Yeah. I think he's saying even if she's old, you can still get married.
Okay.
What does Eugene say?
Here's Eugene's take. Yeah, here's Eugene's take.
Great, can't wait.
This is verse 36. If a man has a woman friend to whom he is loyal, but never intended to marry, having decided to serve God as a single, and then changes his mind.
A craft single.
and then changes his mind, deciding he should marry her. He should go ahead and marry. It's no sin. It's not even a step down from celibacy, as some say.
Doesn't matter what she wants.
God.
Oh, so, okay.
I hate this.
Yeah,
I hate it. I don't like it.
All right, no, Jace, you love critical analysis. You love analysis. So here's my analysis, is that I think I hear a little bit of this theme that we identified in earlier letters of Paul, of that kind of, we want to set up rules, but we also want there to be good PR and to like open our gates to recruit as many people as possible. And so we kind of have to try to have it both ways. Right?
Yeah,
of like, yes, Jews, be Jewish, follow the Jewish law, but like Gentiles, you don't got to do that. That's fine. You only got to follow a couple of these laws. And I feel like it's the same here where he's like, you shouldn't marry.
Keep your
but
whole
if you want to get married, like it's okay. It's all right. If you're married to someone who's like, it's okay, right? He's like realizing that we can't make it too strict or else no one...
Yeah, we got to let people in.
Yes, we got to be able to let people in.
Like...
And so this is what I see as some of the back and forth hedging of trying to have it as many ways as possible.
Right. And I think... Now I'm realizing that this whole thing about like if you've got this woman friend that you never intended to marry, and now you're older but you still could, I think it's Paul leaving his own gateway open to have a beard if he ever wanted to.
Sure.
You know.
Okay, can I finish this?
Yeah. It's like me and Chloe get on great. I might marry her someday.
Yeah, I mean, Chloe's kind of like fun. I don't know. I like her. She's a laugh. She's a gas.
She's my direct line to all the goss.
Yeah. But he who stands steadfast in his heart, having no necessity, but has power over his own heart to keep his own virgin, does well. So then both he who gives his own virgin in marriage does well, and he who doesn't give her in marriage does better. A wife is bound by law for as long as her husband lives, but if the husband is dead, she is free to be married to whomever she desires, only in the Lord. But she is happier if she stays as she is in my judgment, and I think that I also have God's Spirit.
Paul.
Is that an aside to himself? What? Okay, can we please? We are so late. I have a party to get to. Let's go.
Yeah, we gotta roll through this.
Go. Okay.
All right, here I go. Yes, this is 1 Corinthians chapter 8. We're kind of doing this episode palindrome style, where it goes Dedeker, Jace, Emily, Jace, Dedeker.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, concerning things sacrificed to idols. Okay, new topic. Virgins are done.
Great.
We've covered that thoroughly.
Awesome.
We know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up.
Why did that get you, Emily?
I don't know what even because it's the stupidest thing I've ever read. Okay, keep going.
I feel like that'd be a good cross stitch. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up.
I think I understand what he's getting at. I guess. Okay.
But if anyone thinks that he knows anything, he doesn't yet know as he ought to know. That's a Buddhist koan right there. But if anyone loves God, the same is known by him. Therefore, concerning the eating of things sacrificed to idols, we know that no idol is anything in the world, and that there is no other God but one. For though there are things that are called, quote, gods, whether in the heaven or on earth, as there are many gods and many lords, yet to us there is one God, the Father, of whom are all things, and we for him, and one Lord, Jesus Christ, through whom are all things, and we live through him. However, that knowledge isn't in all men, but some, with consciousness of the idol until now, eat as of a thing sacrificed to an idol, and their conscience, being weak, is defiled.
Huh?
Anyone follow that?
Okay, so as in if you are aware of the fact that this was sacrificed to an idol, it's that awareness where you choose to eat it anyway, that gets you in trouble. Yes, that's my best guess.
I thought it was more that because he doesn't know. But some with consciousness of the idol until now act as of a thing sacrificed to an
and
idol.
they have the consciousness until now. It doesn't say they don't have consciousness of the idol until now.
I see. Okay, but now that they know and now that they eat it, their conscience being weak is defiled.
Yes.
But food will not commend us to God. For neither, if we don't eat, are we the worse, nor if we eat, are we the better. But be careful that by no means does this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to the weak. For if a man sees you who have knowledge sitting in an idol's temple, won't his conscience, if he is weak, be emboldened to eat things sacrificed to idols?
Okay, so he's saying, like, don't worry about eating food. God doesn't really care. Just if you're going to eat something sacrificed to idols, don't do it where other people can see it.
I think that's the deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Weird. I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, this is a weird little exception that he's making here.
Yeah.
That's very strange. And through your knowledge, he who is weak perishes, the brother for whose sake Christ died. Thus, sinning against the brothers and wounding their conscience when it is weak, you sin against Christ. So if you make it seem like that's okay and someone else does it, they're wounded to Christ and that's your fault and that's on you. Therefore, if food causes my brother to stumble, I will eat no meat forevermore.
Great.
That I don't cause my brother to stumble.
Sweet.
Okay. Bringing it home. Bringing it home.
Yeah.
Bringing it home with chapter 9.
Yeah.
Am I not free? Am I not an apostle? Haven't I seen Jesus Christ, our Lord? Aren't you my work in the Lord? If to others I am not an apostle, yet at least I am to you, for you are the seal of my apostleship in the Lord. My defense to those who examine me is this: have we no right to eat and to drink? Have we no right to take along a wife who is a believer, even as the rest of the apostles and the brothers of the Lord and Cephas? Or have only Barnabas and I no right to not work? Yeah, I feel like we're really getting into some subtweeting here.
Yeah. I don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, he's talking about things that we're not privy to. We have no idea what's going on.
Between
but he's
him and the
going to talk about it. Yeah.
What soldier ever serves at his own expense? Who plants a vineyard and doesn't eat of its fruit? Or who feeds a flock and doesn't drink from the flock's milk? Do I speak these things according to the ways of men? Or doesn't the law also say the same thing? For it is written in the law of Moses, you shall not muzzle an ox while it treads out the grain. Is it for the oxen that God cares? Or does he say it assuredly for our sake? Yes, it was... Okay, I feel like there's a little bit of prosperity gospel going on, honestly. A little bit of this is why it's okay to be rich and Christian is what I read into it.
Okay, no, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm
sure all the rich Christians love this.
Yeah,
They love it.
I thought
God
maybe
would want you to enjoy all the fruits of your labor.
I thought he was maybe just complaining that he's not getting paid as well as the other apostles are. Maybe because he's the second generation of Care Bearers.
Yes.
You know? Because I'm reading Eugene's translation and his one is, you don't seem to have raised questions with the other apostles and our master's brother and Peter in these matters. So why
Peter.
me? Is it just Barnabas and I who have to go it alone and pay our own way?
Oh, I see. Okay.
I mean, thank you, Eugene, for making that
yes.
a little bit more understandable. I do appreciate it. Yes.
Yes, it was written for our sake, because he who plows ought to plow in hope, and he who threshes in hope should partake of his hope. Did someone catch Paul scooping from the coffers? Is that what's going on?
Or was someone like, who are you anyway? Like, you weren't one of the apostles. Why are you speaking so authoritatively?
If we sowed to you spiritual things, is it a great thing if we reap your fleshly things?
Oh my.
If others partake of this right over you, don't we yet more? Nevertheless, we do not use this right, but we bear all things that we may cause no hindrance to the gospel of Christ. Don't you know that those who serve around sacred things eat from the things of the temple, and those who wait on the altar have their portion with the altar?
Yeah,
this is 100% embezzlement
for free. Yeah.
And justification for church embezzlement.
Yeah, he's like, this is why it's okay. I live a humble life.
Yeah.
I do have a Rolls Royce and a Humvee, but that's fine.
Yes.
It's because I'm spreading the seeds of the gospel.
But Even so, the Lord ordained that those who proclaim the gospel should live from the gospel. But I have used none of these things, and I don't write these things that it may be done so in my case, for I would rather die than that anyone should make my boasting void. For if I preach the gospel, I have nothing to boast about, for necessity is laid on me, but woe is to me if I don't preach the gospel. For if I do this of my own will, I have a reward. But if not of my own will, I have a stewardship entrusted to me. What then is my reward? That when I preach the gospel, I may present the gospel of Christ without charge, so as not to abuse my authority in the gospel.
So,
yes.
Now he's flipping back the other way and kind of claiming that he's not getting paid because his reward is the gospel itself.
Yes.
Okay.
For though I was free from all, I brought myself under bondage to all, that I might gain the more. To the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain Jews. To those who are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain those who are under the law.
This is
to
exactly
those,
what we've identified about
Yes,
him, that he just
he's a
kind of adapts
shapeshifter.
to whoever he's talking to. Yeah.
Yes. To
Like
those
Mark Zuckerberg or like any of those billionaires.
to those who are without law, as without law, not being without law toward God, but under law toward Christ, that I might win those who are without law. To the weak I became as weak, that I might gain the weak. I have become all things to all men, that I may by all means save some. Now I do this for the gospel's
Good
sake,
job. Good job.
that I may be a joint partaker of it. Don't you know that those who run in a race all run, but one receives the prize? Run like that you may win. Every man who strives in the games exercises self-control in all things. Now, they do it to receive a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. I therefore run like that, as not uncertainly. I fight like that, as not beating the air, but I beat my body and bring it into submission, goodness, Paul, lest by any means, after I've preached to others, I myself should be rejected.
Wow.
The end.
I got it. I really need a week off from this. Okay.
Emily, you've barely been back for 2 weeks.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying like a whole week off,
need
but
a
like
week-
I need a week
between now and next
I see.
time. Yes.
In between
Yes, yeah,
this, okay? Because it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a
man.
lot.
What this
Okay.
just made me think of is so in a couple weeks, I'm going to an event for work that's kind of our like big all company sales hype meeting.
Yeah.
And it happens once a year. And it's a software company, right? So it's a bunch of freaking nerds. And like there's some of us that are in more nerdy positions than others, which is me.
Yeah.
But the sales guys, and if anyone who's worked in an organization that has like a big sales team, they're so into their sports metaphors and sports analogies and like this competition, and you got to push yourself, and that's why you get up every day to crush the competition, and like all this, like they play lots of montages of sports footage while playing
Psychology stuff.
inspirational sports quotes from movies gets played over them. It's like a very, very common thing across sales organizations. And I had this hilarious idea of...
And you're like, I don't know what any of this is.
No, of these last couple verses of Paul being the quote that's getting read. People just being like, wait, what? Just the whole like, I'm punishing my body. I'm racing. I'm running because I'm going to be there because only one wins. It's like that same kind of talk, but
Same
just
mindset.
in slightly more archaic language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
So maybe Paul was like the first modern day salesman.
I mean, he kind of was. He was all
like
about
Glenn Ross.
Yeah.
Like,
Right,
exactly.
exactly.
He's Alec Baldwin's character
Uh-huh.
in that.
Well, Emily, are you ready to party after that? Are you in the mood? Did it put you in the mood to party?
So my place of work, or one of my places of work, is having like a Latin dance party. And so I'm coming
that's
late, but I'm going to go do it. Yeah, I'm going to go Latin dance.
Do you know how to Latin dance?
I'm Latin.
No, I know.
excuse
That is
me?
not the question that
Like
I asked.
all my dancing counts as Latin dance?
My partner, the bartender, is there right now, and he is actually a very good dancer.
Mhm.
And so I can kind of fake it with him.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I want to take a class or two or three or many. I would love to learn
Mhm.
more, and I can fake it.
Mhm.
It's just a hip thing and a couple steps, right? I can fake it.
I mean, sure. Dedeker and I took a class.
Salsa class. We took a salsa class for a while.
Yeah. And for all of those people who think that I can drink there, I can't. We're not allowed to drink. If you work in this company, you're not allowed to drink at any of the restaurants ever, even on your off time. So that was why I was pre-gaming with Drunk Bible Study.
Okay, so you are in the mood to party.
Okay, good.
Great.
Yeah, now I am. But
you can just quote Paul to everyone while you're there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I
Be
will.
like, hey, are you single?
Okay.
You should stay that way. Paul said so. Are you married? Good. Don't ever get divorced, no matter what.
Be a plain ass lump.
Yes, that's a good one.
Plain lump.
Remind everyone. We want to be a plain ass lump of unleavened bread.
Yeah.
None of this nasty yeast in there.
Yeah. Okay,
kids.
All right. I'm gonna bring this home because it is late.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for joining us for Bible study today. If you want to join the audience in our live stream shows, follow us on Twitch at Drunk Bible Study or go to drunkbiblestudy.com/live. If you want even more Drunk Bible Study, including early releases, cocktail recipes, personal toasts on the show, and more, become one of our patrons at patreon.com/drunkbiblestudy. If you enjoy the show, take a moment to subscribe and write us a nice review on iTunes, letting other people know what you like about it. You can also join fellow listeners in the Drunk Bible Study Fans and Fellowship Facebook group or on our Discord server at discord.drunkbiblestudy.com. Drunk Bible Study is created and produced by Jace Lindgren, Dedeker Winston, and me, Emily Matlack. Our theme song is Book Club by Josh and Anand from their album Home of the. For more information, visit us at drunkbiblestudy.com.
I made a memory about your dad. He's in a book club. Whoa. He's got a history of skimming past all the pages of ageless confessional.